And I'd like to talk a little bit about Inyan Yoma, that's how it relates to our Chazara. And we'll see how it's amazing how it ties together. And at the same time, I'm sorry I'm starting late. I just had my siyum in memory of my mother. Today's her second yahrzeit. So we had a siyum on Baba Kama and on Nevi'im and Ksuvim. I can't urge everybody enough to make sure you go through Nach. It's all of Nach. It's without it's unbelievable what we're missing by not going through it, and how much you get by going through it. Amen. Thank you. So I thought we'd just talk about briefly today, and then talk about what we're going to do going weiter after we finish this Chazara. So first, I just want to talk about in Nakuda that we know the famous Gemara that asked the Kasha that the Gemara in Shabbos, very famous Gemara, that Klal Yisrael, when they were given the Torah at Har Sinai, so it says that Kafu Aleim Har Kegigis, V'yamdu Am Sakti Sahar, they stood under the Har. Lamed Shekafu Aleim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Har Kegigis, he held the Har over there, over them like a barrel, and said, Im Tkabel Satar Mutav Im Lav Sham Tek V'Raskan. If you receive the Torah, good. If not, then that's your Torah. Without going into that whole hesber of that whole thing, what that means, but the Gemara says, Im Ken Modarab L'Raisa. It's a time on the Torah that they were forced into it. But it seems to be that they're forced into it. So the Gemara answers, Afapiken Hadar Kiblu Abiyimei Achashverosh. They reaccepted it in the days of Achashverosh. So for many years, it's bothered me why the Gemara would say Biyimei Achashverosh. Is it such a bad thing that it's Biyimei Mordechai Esther? We're going to call those days Yimei Achashverosh. The Hadar Kiblu should be Yimei Achashverosh. That's good that we're giving him this whole mahalach of Hadar Kiblu, that they received it again. Always bothered me. So I was thinking two things. One is that the Gemara says in Megillah that Gedola Asaras Tabas in Memches Nevi'im the Sheva Nevios. Greater is the taking off the ring from Achashverosh to Haman, giving it to Haman, when he gave them the rishus to go ahead and destroy all the Yidden. So Gedola Hasaras Tabas, greater was that Hasaras Tabas, just taking out that ring, than Memches Nevi'im, than all the Nevuah of 48 Nevi'im and 7 Nevios, they're Menabed Klal Yisrael to do tshuva, and to go back from the Avodah Zorah, and to tshuva from all their averas, to save the Beis Mikdash, and they were not matzliach. They didn't do it. The Klal Yisrael never really did full tshuva. The first time they did full tshuva was, you had different malachim that did partial tshuva. The Klal Yisrael never really did full tshuva. The first time Klal Yisrael really did full tshuva was at the story of Purim. And so Gedolas or Ramesh Shapiro used to say that we see from here that the tachlis of all the Nevi'im, the Iker tachlis, is to give takacha for tshuva. Because otherwise it couldn't say Gedola Saras Tabas because of tshuva. We learn a lot more from the Nevi'im than just tshuva. There's many yisodas that we learn from the Nevi'im. We see from that Gemara that the Iker yisod of Nevuah of Nevi'im Klal Yisrael is for Klal Yisrael to do tshuva. And therefore you could say Miklape the tshuva Gedola Saras Tabas from all those Nevi'im and all those Nevios. So that's, I think, a possible simple mahalach would be that it's called Yimei Achashverosh, Hadar Kiblu Yimei Achashverosh, that the Hadar Kiblu, the Chazara for all their averas, and to receive the Torah again. That's really, we're not going to give them a schus, but it is b'schus the fact that Achashverosh took off his ring, Gedolah Saras Tabas, and Mela we call it Hadar Kiblu Yimei Achashverosh. Maybe it's a possible shot. But I was thinking something deeper. That would be a possible shot, but something deeper. We have to understand this etzem Hadar Kiblua b'mei Achashverosh. I'm pouring this new Kabbalah. Kimu v'kibla Yehudim, when it says in the Megillah, Kimu v'kibla Yehudim, Kimu masha kiblu kvar. The Mekayim, what they're already makabel. So there's Ramban on that Gemara in Shabbos and Chedush Ramban, which Derech Agav, it's one of, you would think, the Ramban al Torah is the Spitz Bal Machshava, he would for sure talk about all the Agadas in Shas. But this is one of three places in the entire Shas the Ramban actually speaks about an Agadah. So the Ramban was an expert not only in Agadah but also in compartmentalizing. He totally compartmentalized that to Chumash and others for him, but on Shas he's saying Chedushim and Shas, not on Agadah. But this is one of the three is in Mekamor and Shabbos. Interesting why he picked that one. So there's a, without going into all these sodas of the Ramban, it's a Gavaldig sodas over there. But the Maisa, one thing that seems to be from the Ramban is that the Kabbalah that they had was not really a new Kabbalah. The Moda Rabba Raisa, the Taina that they weren't really a Kabbalah, they were Kabbalah Unis, wasn't really a Taina. It was a what's the word for it? Achiza Seinayim. How do you say in English? It was a Achizat Einayim. How do you say in English? It was an optical illusion. Yeah, it was an optical illusion. It seemed that way. But like Tosfos asked the Kasha over there, what do they need Harkagigis for? They already said Nasa Minishma before that. They already said Nasa Minishma before the Harkagigis. So what do you need that for? So Tosfos says Terutzim, the Maral talks about it. The Maisit, the Kasha is the Kasha. They said Nasa Minishma Mitoch Leiv Shalem without Harkagigis, way before that. So Be'etzim, when the Haraki blew up in Mordechai Esther really comes out in Mordechai B'mei Achashverosh, is really Be'etzim not a new Kabbalah. It's Haraki Blua. It's like a Chazara of their Kabbalah. It's a deeper realization of what they're really Makabal the first time. It was a new Hakara that they tied it all along. The Ramban brings down over there a Medrash, was also Gemara in Sanhedrin, that it says that Rishayim v'oso ador, and the Rishayim at the door of the Chorban said to Yecheskel Hanavi, who was the end of the Nevuah by Rishon, they said, Yecheskel Rabbeinu, Eved Shagirsho Rabbi v'Isha Shagirsho Maila Klum Yashal Alav, and Eved that the Adon kicks him out, or the Isha that the Baal is gives her a get, does she still have any obligation to sue anything to that husband? Of course not. She's Regurash. So they timed that one Kadosh Baruch Hu Kiviyachol gave them a gerushin, kicked them out. When they were Makabel the Torah, they were saying that Makabel b'toch Ava, and they were on Makabel not in a matzav of kas. If there be a matzav of kas of gerushin, then they have no chiyuvim left to Kadosh Baruch Hu, because they held that the Muda Rabba Laraisa, this taina that they were Makabel the onus was the incredible Abba that Hashem showed with them at that time. That was really the spitz of the onus. But the Kodesh Baruch held that Harkagigis, was like holding a kuppah over them. So it was a matzav of Nesuin. And we're Makabel the Torah as long as we're in a matzav of a Nesuin. But now that we're in a matzav of Gerushin, Kodesh Baruch was Megarish us, Meretz Yisrael, then we weren't Makabel the Torah. Rav Moshe Shapiro used to say over from the Gra that the reason that the story of Kamsa Bar Kamsa of the Chorban Beis Hamikdash is a Mesechus Gittin, is because Klal Yisrael felt that the Rishayim, it looked like a matzah of Gerushin of Gittin. Hashem gave us a get, which the Rishayim Shaboso Ador, those Rishayim said they held that we're not Mechuyev in Torah anymore. So what happened by Hadar Kiblua is they came to the realization that their Kabbalah Torah was in every matzav. It wasn't just because of the matzav of Nesuin and Abba. That came later. They were Makabalit because they were Makabalit deep down in their etzem mahus of who they were. They're Makabalit Torah. That even in a case where we might slap, like the Gemara says that Pshat in the Gemara and Chulin Esther min Torah Menayin Shenemar Haster Aster Panamehem is that how do we know that even in a matzav of Hester Panim there's still going to be an Esther? That's the Aster Panamehem. The word Aster is written like Esther, and the Gra gives a mashal of a son of a king who's very, very chutzpahdik, and he's so spoiled, and the king gives him everything, and finally he's so chutzpahdik he slaps his father in the face, and that's it. The father has to teach him a lesson, so he sends him out to the dark, dreary forest to learn his lesson, and he knows a lot of people want to kill him. But he calls together his close aides before that and says, you have to hide in the forest and make sure that he doesn't know you're there. He doesn't know that I sent you. and but make sure that no harm really befalls him. That's not the point of harming him. The point is to learn the lesson. So one after the other, different people try to kill him, and there's last minute an arrow flies out from the air and kills the person, and he keeps getting saved again and again until finally he really says, "What's going on here? Just a minute. The only one that could do this. Who's saving me like this? Who cares? It can't be a mikra every time. It must be someone who's protecting me. Who could that be? It must be my father. Even though I slapped him in the face, he must still love me." And he got an Abba much greater than ever before. The realization of how deep the Abba of the father to the son was came through not during the time he was in the palace, but after when he was thrown out of the palace, and that's why he was Ukabel, Alev Shalom to Tshuva and come back to his father in a greater way than ever before. And that's the Gra says that's shot in Esther bin Tormanayan, that Bisman Hester Panim, we have an Esther, and we're Chazal Tshuva from that. But the Akara comes out from that Gemara. The Akara that they got to was Hadar Kiblua, that they went away from that time of Moder Abba Laraisa, and they re-issued the Torah with the realization that the Kabbalah Torah they had to begin with was so incredibly deep that it was beyond any matzah, any matzah gershon didn't make a difference. There's still Makabli Torah. So this re-accepting, re-looking at things in a different way. So that's that Hadar Kiblua. So that Hadar is really it's munach deep in the lashon of Adar. Adar and Hadar and lashon HaKodesh are really the same lashonos. We find this in a few places that Sfarim say Hadar is lashon Adar, and because the word Adar is the root of the word Adarabba. We know that Anshe Knesset Gdola. Why are they called? The Gemara says Yuma. Why Lama Nikru Shmam Anshe Knesset Gdola? Shehegziru Atara Liyoshna. They put back the Atara, the crown, back to its prior glory. Because the Nevi'im, they took out Gibor Benora, Yirmiyahu Navi, and later they took out Gibor Benora. They said that Nachrim, Maharkrim Behechalo, Ayan Narosav. If Goyim were dancing around in the Hechal of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Beis Hamikdash, where do you see as Naros? And Goyim Mishabdim B'Banav, and Banav, we went away into the Gullus, and like Keves Echad Ben Shivim Zavim, like one sheep among 70 hungry wolves. So where do you see his Gevura? So they took out those words because the Kodesh Baruch was Amiti. You can only daven to him to feed those mitos that he's Megala in the world. Once he took those mitos away, then the Nevi'im said we have to take those words out of the Tefillah. Acha Bok Anshe Knesset Gdola told the Anshe Knesset Gdola in the beginning of Bais Sheni, they came back and they said Adarabba. On the contrary, Adarabba, hen gvurosov, hen nerosov. That gufa is Hashem's gevura and his naros. That he's roach harpasav v'shosek. That he takes all that shame that the goyim are makal him, and his shosek has shtika, and the naros, the Klal Yisrael, he's that achas kaimas bein umos, that he keeps Klal Yisrael alive bein umos. So that Adarabba. So the root of the word Adarabba, they saw, you can say, look at the same thing in a different way, is also going to be spelled Adarba. There's Adar in it. Adarabba is Adarba. Because Adar is the time of Hadar Kiblua. Adar is the time that we look things back over again in a deeper way. So sometimes it's Dafka, the Choshech of Golos. And the deeper the matzav of choshech is, sometimes you're able to bring out that much more or because of the choshech, despite the choshech. That's always the history of Klal Yisrael. We turn lemons into lemonade. We take what was the worst possible depths of Hester Panim and choshech and turn that into Gilipan, turn that into, I say, like lemonade. We turn it into something good. La mashal, famous mashal is Talmud Bavli. Revolva, I heard once from him, a beautiful shmooze, going through Tkufa after Tkufa in Klal Yisrael's history, showing how we took a Yerida and turned it into an Aliyah. So one of the paradigm situations that is Talmud Bavli, that Klal Yisrael went to Babel, and the Gemara says that many times throughout Shas, it says the Bnei Eretz Yisrael said to them, Hani Babelai Tipshoy, those foolish Babylonian, that and they're Darim Ben the Ara de Chashucha bein Am de Chashucha. They're living in an Eretz Shel Choshech among an Am Chashucha, an Am Chashucha. So it's mashpia on the Bnei Babel. They're living in such a batza of Choshech, and ad kedei that there's a chiluk yisodi between Talmud Babel and Talmud Yerushalmi. Talmud Yerushalmi was written earlier, but also when they bring a raya in Talmud Yerushalmi to something, Svarim points out that the Yerushalmi says Tachazi. When it brings a pasuk, it says Tachazi. Talmud Babel, it says Tashma. So the chiluk between Tashma and Tachazi is Enadoma Shmiya Laria. You can't compare hearing something to seeing something. When you see it, it's much more clear. That's why Talmud Yerushalmi is so much shorter than Talmud Babli, because they had such a clarity, they didn't have to discuss it very much. It just came to a quick clarity. But Talmud Babli, that's Tashma, it's much more distant, it's much more choshech. We paskan like Talmud Babli over Talmud Yerushalmi, because despite that choshech, Klal Yisrael, the Midrash in the beginning of Parshas Noach, in the Tanchuma, that brings the pasuk, Ha'am ba'olchim b'choshech ro or gadol. Dafka, the Am that walks in the choshech and continues to walk, continues to be ma'ayin more and more deeply, and they overcome that choshech, then you get to even a greater level of or you can never get to if you have it immediately given to you. So that's why the halach is like Talmud Babli, that despite the fact it was so chashuch, they overcame that and they got to the depths, even a deeper, more profound understanding than the Yerushalmi ever got to. And we hold like Talmud Babli. So, like we said, like Revolve pointed out, that was the derech of Klal Yisrael through all the doros, and that's what the huge yerida of Gibor Venora that was taken out because the choshech of the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. So the Anshe Knesset Gdola were able to say Adarabba, meaning through Nevuah we can't understand it because Nevuah, a Navi only sees what he's shown, but through Chachma, the Ramban's Ramas to this one place, through the Chachma of Torah Shabbat Peh, you're able to see things you couldn't even see even more deeply than were ever revealed. Derech Nevuah. So the Anshe Knesset Gdola that were the beginning of the Tkufa of Torah Shabbat Peh, that was the end of Tkufa and Nevuah, and now the beginning of the Tkufa, the new Tkufa of Torah Shabbat Peh, which began in the beginning of Bayit Sheni. So then that became it brought us a deeper abundance to be able to bring back Gibor Venora. So in other words, we're chazering over, we're doing chazorah over the same matzav and seeing a whole different message within that. Similar to what Rabbi Akiva was Megala to his chaverim, that the same reason you're crying is a reason for me to laugh. The shorish of this mahalach of turning the negative into a positive really comes from the shviras luchos itself. When Moshe Rabbeinu was shover luchos by we read recently last week by the Chet Egel. So that was one of the most tremendous yeridas in the whole history of Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael were incredible matzav of two kasarim, and they were like in the matzav of Adam Rishon Kodem Achet, and then now after this Chet, now they had a tremendous yerida, and but since they did Shuva, so they got Luchos Shniyos. Luchos Shniyos were a whole different matzav than Luchos Rishonos. In the first Luchos, everything that was supposed to be in Torah Shabbat Peh was all written down and encoded in the Luchos. It was an incredibly miraculous piece of work. It was the first and only time that Hakadosh Baruch Hu personally handed something down to this world. And Luchos Shniyos were a whole different bria, a whole different thing completely. However, Dafka by Luchos Shniyos, we find that by Moshe Rabbeinu was Karan or Panav. Why, when it came down from the first Luchos, was not Karan or Panav? So there's a huge arichos in the Beis Halevi on this, and Drushit in the Drushit Ches. But just one point we want to take out is that Luchos Rishonos, as great as they were, the entirety of Torah was written on them. So the Luchos, the Torah, and Moshe Rabbeinu were two separate entities. But by Luchos Shniyos, after the words of the Torah Shabbat Peh flew off of the first Luchos, and that's why he broke them, because the Torah is useless without Torah Shabbat Peh. The second Luchos did not have the Torah Shabbat Peh written on them. Instead, says the Beis Halevi, the Luchos that the Torah Shabbat Peh is written on is on the Leib Shel Talmid Chacham, like it says, Kisva Maluach Leibecha, write them on the Luach of your heart. So now that Moshe Rabbeinu became the Luchos of the Torah Shabbat Peh, that's why by Luchos Shniyos, Karna or Panav. That's why he had Karinus or Panim. That's because he himself embodied the aura of the Torah. It wasn't two separate entities anymore. Now Moshe Rabbeinu was the Torah. So sometimes the Yerida can be turned into an Aliyah mitzad acher, that now the Aliyah is that we lost the first Luchos, is now that we ourselves can make ourselves into the shtick Torah, a piece of Torah. That's why we say Chachmas Adam Ta'ir Panov. The wisdom of a person lights up his face, like Moshe Rabbeinu. Every Talmid Chacham, true Talmid Chacham, Rosh Shlomo Zalman, I once saw at the end of Shal Shuddis, when everything got completely dark in the house. It was completely pitch black. I couldn't see anybody else, but his face never got dark. His face continued to shine. I saw an Or Al Panov, even when the was already Tzesek Chavim. We couldn't see anything else in the room, but you could see his face. It was still shining. Chachmas Adam entire Panov. That's a cell, a little leftover of Moshe Rabbeinu's Kohen Arpanov. So you see from here that when we go back over things in a different way, it looks in more deeply, like Klal Yisrael. Hadraki blew up in Achashverosh is dafka because the choshech of Achashverosh, all of the gzeras and all the choshech is epitomized in Achashverosh, and the Hadraki blua wasn't because of Mordechai and Esther. The Hadraki blua was Klal Yisrael delved deeply within themselves, that despite it being a time of Achashverosh, being a time of pure darkness of Hester Panim, Hadraki blua dafka b'mei Achashverosh. That's why the Gemara is madgish that they overcame the choshech of Achashverosh and Hadraki blua. So the chazara that they did was a chazara on Kabbalah Satorah, and they came to a deeper awareness of what Har Sinai really was because of the choshech. During the time of Har Sinai itself, it was the time of Kula Or, and so they couldn't really see how deep it was because the Or was so powerful. But when the Or was gone, then Hadraki blua, then they could see how deep the connection was when they were the Kabbalah Torah the first time, that they're Makabalit, and it became part of the very Mahus, part of the very essence, their very being is the Kabbalah Torah, and therefore they're Makabalit. The Choshech of Achashverosh enabled them to see what they couldn't see otherwise. It's like we're about to very soon. There's going to be on Rosh Chodesh, day after Rosh Chodesh Nisan, or day before, and maybe it is Rosh Chodesh Nisan. There's going to be a total eclipse. It's going to pass through Texas. Actually, a big group is coming to Texas for that. There's going to be all kinds of speakers and Rabbanim, and they're coming to see this total eclipse. But there's going to be a lot of shiurim about it, and so on and so forth. It's going to be in Texas because it's one of the places that in the direct line of the eclipse is near about an hour from Dallas. So, but one interesting thing is that when there's a total eclipse of the sun, a total complete eclipse, then you can see things you couldn't see before. They can see stars they couldn't see before because it's always overshadowed by the sun. And that's why that's one of those that they proved Einstein's theory of relativity. That one of the points of relativity is that light is a type of matter. The energy of light has characteristics of matter, and therefore they should be subject to gravity, to the effect of gravity. And the one thing they could test it is to see that the light of those stars that became available when there was a total eclipse of the sun many years ago. And I think it was in the around 19 end of the teens or the beginning of the 20s. They could see that there's a bending of the light from where it was before to where it should be. There was a bending of the light around the sun that they could see. They could observe that with a telescope during the eclipse of the sun, and therefore proved the theory of relativity. So there's a lot. Sometimes you could see things. Dafka in the choshech, you could see things you couldn't see even when there's or. And Klal Yisrael could see what they were made of when they were able to say Adarabah, and they could see who they really were because of the choshech of Achashverosh. That's why the Gemara is madgish. Hadraki blua b'mei Achashverosh, not b'mei Mordechai and Esther. That could be a deeper shot. The one thing we see from here is that the concept of Chazara, which we're doing now, Chazara is a very profound thing that it's like a Hadraki blua, like a thing that to really be true Chazara, to be really true Chazara, that one will get new insights in what you learned already the first time around. Like Klal Yisrael, every time they had a Chazara, Hadraki blua, it's a new insight in what they had. It wasn't just that they reviewed what they had, but that the reviewing itself brings one to new insights. And that's one of the signs that you're really doing a true chazara, is you have new insights and things that you didn't have before. Sometimes just the very fact that you saw it all and you have a bigger picture now, so you see things in a different light. So a real chazara is it's not just a seeing it again, but it's a hadra kibalua. It's coming back and re-receiving what you got already once and seeing it in a deeper way. And the time for that dafka we see is during this time of, like Adar is, we said, is the shorish of Adarabba. Look at things again. Adar is a time to look back at things again. And Hadar and Adar from the same lashon, like Hadar Kibalua, it's dafka shaykh to Adar. There's another nakuda of this also that really goes into this cheshbon of Purim time and Adar being especially a time of Chazara. That this in the words of Rav Hutner in the third mimer in Purim. So he points out that we know that part of the Hadar Kibalua was that Lihudim Ma'asa'ara. Lihudim Ma'asa'ara v'simcha v'sasna v'yikar. So each of those words, the Gemara darshans on a different Kabbalah Samitzvahs. Lihudim Ma'asa'ara, Ara zu Torah. The Ara is Torah. So he points out, Rav Hutner, that it comes out a very interesting thing that if you ask somebody what happened on Shavuos, they would say Kabbalah Torah. And on Purim, what happened? Well, Lihudim Ma'asa'ara. By Kabbalah Torah, there's a pasuk. The pasuk says in Mishlei that Kiner mitzvah v'Torah or. Kiner mitzvah v'Torah or. That the mitzvah is like a ner, and the Torah is like or. So Torah or is a manifestation of Ora zu Torah. The thing is that the direction is opposite. On Shavuos they got Torah, and then from the Torah they saw the or. On Purim they got the or, and from there they saw the Torah. They started with the or, and from the or we see the Torah. How do we understand that? So in his Nusach, Rav Hutner says that we find an interesting thing that happened in Melchamas Amalek by David HaMelech. When David HaMelech had a Melchama against Amalek, it says there, it's in Shmuel Aleph, Perak Lamed. It says, Umi yishma lachem l'davar hazeh. Have you ever heard of such a thing before? David HaMelech made a takana. Ki kachelek hayored l'melchama u'kachelek hayoshev ala kelim yachtav yachaloku. That as a chelik of the Yordim Melchama should also be the chelik of those that are sitting ala kelim. They should evenly split the booty, the whatever is taken in the war. So this takana that David Melech, it's a new takana that from now on, whenever the pasuk ends off by from that day on, it became a chok and mishpat in Klal Yisrael adi yamazeh till today. That whenever there's a war, you need people to go out to fight the war, and you need people to stay back and are shomer malakelim, that they're shomer over the existing yishuv that's there. And when they finish the war, then those who were shomer on the kelim and those that went out to fight share equally. And this happened after Melchamas Amalek. So let's say Tamsa Dvarim, Hutner says that we find the same thing when it comes to Geula, the different Geulas of Klal Yisrael, that those that go out to fight the war, they're the ones that are kovesh new areas. There's a new kvisha, it's a new attaining of new areas, new lands, new money, new people, whatever they're kovesh that. And those are shomer alakelim, they ensure that what we have already stays strong. So in the Gula of Klal Yisrael from Mitzrayim, so we know that was a Kedisha Labris. Klal Yisrael were Nichnas Labris by Tzias Mitzrayim and Kabbalah Torah. And that's one type of a Gula. We have another Gula of the pasuk says in Vayikra by the Kalalas, at the end of it says that Lo ma'astim v'lo ga'altim lachalosam lahafer brisi itam. So the Gemara darshan is that each one of those is talking about a different galus, And the Hafer Brisi Itam is referring to the Yemei Paras Amadai, Shehamadati Mordechai v'Chaverov, meaning the Nesa Purim is the kiyum of Lahafer Brisi Itam. It's a shmira. I'm not made for the bris that I already was kares. Yitzias Mitzrayim is a new bris. It's like a new kvisha. It's a new war that takes over new areas and new material. But Purim is a gula of Lahafer Bris Itam that I'm not made for the bris that I already have. Amalek came to try to be made for the bris, to destroy us. That's why they even cut the milas and the reserve brisless kapi mila. They're coming to destroy Klal Yisrael to be made for the bris. And the nitzachon against, like in Purim, which is the nitzachon against Amalek. So there it was a haftacha of the Torah already before that he's not going to be made for the bris. We're going to have the ability to ensure our bris to be shomer on the bris that we already have. So Yisrael b'Arais Achad, the gulas and Klal Yisrael themselves fit into those gulas. That there are times that we as Klal Yisrael we go out and learn new things. That's like in Melchanta Shel Torah, the war of Torah. We go and we're kovish new areas of Torah, new exoyos, new inyanim, new halachas and new areas of shas and poskim. And then we have times that we're like Lahafer Brisi time that we're shomer of the kalim. That we go back and we make sure that we don't lose what we already have. And that's the chazara. And that's why it's especially miyuchad for this time of Adar, the time of Adar, with Hadar Kiblua, went back to re-receive it. They went back and they were ma'ayin more deeply into what they already have. It came to a new Havana, a new Akara, to say Adarabba. We have Adarabba. We really were Makabal Torah. But Adarabba, we really are Klal Yisrael. There is no get. There is no get. Kadosh Baruch Hu is still with us behind the scenes. Even Bisman Hester, there's still an Esther. Even Bisman that looks like he's hidden, he's gone. He's not really gone. He's just hidden. So that's why on Shavuos, the Yehudim said Torah. First they got Torah, and then from the Torah they brought out the Or. But on Purim, the Or is already there. Just that we were makir the Or, and that brought us back to the Torah. Hadar Kibbua. I think that's why we end off at the end of the season. We say Hadron Allah. Hadron Allah. We tell the Torah Hadron Allah. I'm going to be chazer over you, which again is lashon Adar and Adarabba Hadrabe. So Hadron Allah, we're going to go back to you, and then we say Hadrach Alan. You should never forget us. You should always come back to us. So that's part of our Kabbalah, and we show that we connect ourselves especially to this kufa of Adar and of Purim through doing Chazara, being shomer sakalim, to make sure that we ensure that we not only remember what we learned, but also we understand it more deeply, and we continue to grow in it more and more and more. So it's just a mixed shvach lefanav that everyone's working on Chazara, that you're all connecting to that, and Yis Hashem will know it more beautifully and more deeply and more profoundly, and continue to chazer to know and also be kovesh more and more miktzah Torah. Yis Hashem.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you, Avi.
And on that note, so it should all be Ilin Nishmas, my mother, Aliyah Shalom, and also on that note, so now's the time that after once we do finish Chazar and do a Bechina, so then the hope started to begin a whole new miktzah of beautiful sugyas and halachas of Bishul Akum. So this is a perfect time if anybody else wants to do tshuva and join the Chabura. All those that gave their original haftachas and said they want to do it, and then somehow didn't work out for them, or other people that didn't know about it. So now's our chance to try to get new people in, get people to join, and to expand our laharbos safsalim b'beis medrasheinu.
Rabbi.
Okay, have a good Shabbos.
Rabbi, next week, what are we going to have a Chazar Sashir next week?
I'm hoping. I'll see how things go this coming week.
Okay.
Because the other Chabura, I have to push ahead to finish off a whole big siman. So I'm hoping to be able to do both. We'll see if
Okay.
hopefully I can find a way to do both. Give me a bracha. Do both.
Amen. What's the approximate timeline? Like by when should we aim to finish the Chazara?
By the end of next week. More than that's already, I think, too long. So we have to go ahead. Let's move on to do things. We can only be shomer as like alien so long, so we have to be kovish new aratzas.
Yeah.
Okay. If possible.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
Rabbi, בעניין ליקוי חמה. זה סימן רע לכל העולם, לישראל, לאומות.
Yeah. Tzarchion. I know. Maybe we'll be mahapach and turn it into Divrei Torah, so it'll take away the סימן Klal,
Okay, Shabbos.